So get this. What if I told you that one of the oldest, deepest philosophies about how our minds work isn't really a philosophy at all? What if it's actually an operating system? You know, like an ancient program that's running our entire experience of life. And like any program ever written, it's got a bug, a hidden security vulnerability.
And that brings us to a really big question, right? Is this program that we call fate, can we actually hack it? I mean, is it possible to look at the source code that seems to lock in all our reactions, our happiness, our suffering, and actually find a way to rewrite it?
Okay, so a lot of people, when they hear about Buddhist concepts of causality, they immediately jump to this idea of like rigid fatalism. You know, the idea that everything you did in the past has completely locked you into your present, and well, tough luck, there's nothing you can do about it. But what if that's not the whole story? What if it's not some inescapable destiny, but just a system? And you know what they say about systems? Any system can be analyzed, and any system has bugs.
All right, let's break this down. On one hand, you've got the old view, fatalism. The idea that we're just stuck, totally powerless because of things that have already happened. But on the other hand, we have this new perspective. It's a system that has some parts that are fixed, sure, but also some parts that are flexible. And that flexible part, well, that's it. That's the security hole we've been looking for.
So, to understand this system, let's start with the part we can't change. This is the unmodifiable hardware. Seriously, just think of it like the physical computer you were born with. It's the biological machine, and it comes with all its factory settings already installed.
Now, this hardware runs a really simple two-step process. First, you have what's called phasa, which just means contact. That's when some kind of sensory input from the world hits you, a sound, something you see, a touch. The second that happens, the system instantly, and I mean instantly, processes it and spits out something called Vedanā. This is just a raw feeling. It's like a primal signal that immediately flags that input as either pleasant, unpleasant, or totally neutral.
And you have to get this. This whole process is just a biological reflex. It is not optional. It's like touching a hot stove. Your hardware is going to send a pain signal, period. It doesn't matter who you are, how enlightened you think you are. This is just a physical law of the universe. This initial hit, this is what's called the first arrow. And here's the key. You cannot avoid it.
Okay, but right after that hardware signal fires, something really interesting happens. This is where we get to the good stuff. The programmable, the flexible, the hackable part of the whole system. Welcome to the software zone.
So what is this software zone? It's this tiny little slice of time. I'm talking a micro moment. It happens right after that raw feeling pops up from the hardware, but just before our usual automatic mental reaction kicks in. This right here is ground zero. It's the exact spot where that default suffering program boots up, and it is our only point of entry.
Now, to really get why this moment is so critical, there's this amazing metaphor from the old texts that just nails it. It makes everything crystal clear. It's all about learning how to dodge the second arrow.
So the saying goes something like this: you will be struck by the first arrow. That part's a given. That's the phasa and the Vedanā we just talked about, the unavoidable pain signal from your hardware. But then it says, but the foolish person, grieving and despairing, shoots themselves with a second arrow. And that second arrow, that's the mental suffering. That's the optional software program of anger and sadness and all the drama that we choose to run in response to that first arrow.
Okay, this is where it gets really juicy. This is the map of the security hole itself. Step 1, Vedanā, that raw feeling, hits you from the hardware. But then, look at step 2. There's a gap, a pause, a tiny little space, and it's only after that gap that step 3, Taṇhā, which is just craving or aversion or whatever your go-to reaction is, launches its program. Now, what does this mean? It means the feeling has to be there for the craving to happen, but the feeling alone isn't enough to cause it. That gap, that's our way in.
All right, so we've found the gap. We've found the vulnerability in the system. The big question is, how do we actually exploit it? Well, for that, we need a tool, and I'm not talking about some vague, mystical concept here. We need something practical, something technical. What we need is a circuit breaker for the mind.
And that tool has a name. It's called Sati. You've probably heard it translated as mindfulness, but for our purposes, let's stick with the tech analogy. Think of Sati as a circuit breaker that you install right in that gap. Its job is purely technical. It's designed to do one thing: stop the automatic flow of electricity from the hardware's feeling signal to the software's craving program.
So here's how it works in practice. It's pretty straightforward. Step 1. An unpleasant signal comes in from your hardware. A pain signal. But now, instead of just letting that default reaction program fire off automatically, Sati steps in. And it doesn't fight the feeling or try to change it, it just logs it, objectively, like a computer would. Log entry, unpleasant signal received. And the result? The Taṇhā program, the one that contains all the craving, the aversion, the whole dramatic story, it never gets triggered. The suffering script just doesn't run. The pain is still there, sure, but it never escalates into actual suffering.
So when you put all of these pieces together, the hardware, the software, that critical gap, and the circuit breaker, you arrive at a pretty incredible and, frankly, super empowering conclusion. It changes everything about how we see our own free will and the very nature of our day-to-day experience.
So here's the bottom line, the most important takeaway. Pain, that's an unavoidable hardware signal. It's the first arrow. You are going to experience it, and there's nothing you can do to eliminate it from your life. But suffering, that's totally different. Suffering is an optional software program. It is the second arrow that we shoot at ourselves. And the amazing thing is, you can simply choose not to run that program.
And listen, this isn't just some nice, fluffy, philosophical idea to think about. This is the technical reality of your free will. It's a real, executable skill. The skill of inserting a pause between a stimulus and your default automated response.
Which really just leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? We've gone through the whole system. We've found the security flaw. We've even identified the tool you need to exploit it. So the only question left, and it's really the only one that matters, is how are you going to update your software?